all protocol observed in the interest of time, and to thank CZI for inviting us to make a comment and a view on what they've just presented. We're not favored with the results before coming over here, and therefore I never had anything that I prepared, but that I was coming here to listen and to comment thereon. The first part to comment on that, thank you very much for a good presentation, and to say that the results, testimony of our informed position that output is going up in this economy, and therefore I think this is, was said by 5.5%. Then I was asking myself, should we be measuring capacity utilization or should we measure the growth of an economy? Where I come from myself, throughout the whole world, we talk about the growth of an economy. I was asking myself, what are the imperatives in this study? Should we measure, as I said, capacity utilization or growth of an economy? If you go throughout the world, they talk about quarterly growth of an economy, of sectors. So what relevance does it have, the capacity utilization? To us, we're looking at the growth of the economy. Like, I will give you an example. Don't like I have just spoken here. If you look at why we agree with these results, is that if you look at the cooking oil industry, for example, as an example, we've got 7 companies that are there, 7 firms, and others who are the SMEs. Zimbabwe's capacity to produce from those 7 companies is about 45 million tons, liters of cooking oil a month. 45,000 tons. This is 45 million liters of cooking oil. What is Zimbabwe's demand for cooking oil? It's 10 million liters per month. So it means that we've got excess capacity of investment in the cooking oil industry. So now here we are measuring now what? That capacity utilization. What is this relevance to the domestic consumption? It means 1 or 2 companies they can just produce for Zimbabwe. The rest are excess capacities. So I was asking myself, what is the relevance therefore then of measuring capacity at this time of the day? These are good methodologies, very good. But is it relevant to what you want to achieve? That's food for thought. And that I can tell you by companies. You go to surface investments, the capacity is 12,000 metric tons. Go to pure oil, capacity is about 10,000 liters per month. Those 2 only is enough for Zimbabwe. One of them come and they can produce for the rest of the economy. So should we provide foreign currency to 7 companies in this country or to 1 company? That's the question. Because you are talking about capacity utilization here. So I'm trying to say that what is very good. I'm agreeing with the Kanyaganya, what you are saying here. Therefore, to me, if you ask me as a Central Bank Governor, I'm more concerned with the growth of the economy. And I've said that many times, that the economy is expanding. And therefore, the figures, they give us testimony. So we're happy with the CZI. The numbers speak to what you are saying, but you have said yourself, that we are not being efficient. What does it mean to us? We've got excess capacity utilization in Zimbabwe. In terms of the investment that has been produced, we've got excess investment capacity. We can produce more goods and services. So it means we can export. That's what it means. If we can produce cooking oil at 10 million liters per month, but we can produce 50 or 45 million 50 million liters, it means we've got that 35 million that we can export. So it means we therefore need these value chains. We now need more soya beans to use those capacities to export. So these results are quite reasonable, and I think on that note, I think it is fair to thank you for that. But then you then looked at the capacity utilization levels for the 34, 47, then 45. Either 2 things has happened, that either people have overinvested in those sectors, that's why the capacity has gone down, or alternatively, that the figures for last year, since this year there's an improved methodology, means that maybe you are going to move from 34 to 44, then 45. But I also know that what is true is that there are a number of companies that have invested in Zimbabwe over the past year. And therefore, there is a capacity which is not being utilized. And that's true. I think there were about 4 companies or so, or in the cooking oil, for example, it's a basic commodity, but now there are 7. So we are spreading so thinly to many companies. That's what it means. And therefore, even this employment that you're talking about, others have increased employment, others are downsizing because of efficient utilization of equipment. So I think the figures, they speak for themselves. So I think they're good results. So what our take home from ourselves as a central bank from this data and presentation is that we need to work on the economic fundamentals to ensure that this economy goes forward. And what are those 3 fundamentals that we have got here? In fact, I was going to say to my friend from the Fingers, when he said that the economic fundamentals, Mr. Machado, that they are showing that we're getting worse off. No, I don't think so. The number, this one shows opposite. The output has gone up. And therefore, fundamentals are that the economy is improving. Number 2, the alternative effects that yourself have given, Machado, being the owners of the Fingers, I think they're dangerous in this environment. Those are alternative effects which will very confuse those people who are operating. You know what they do is that they change the mindset of those who are doing business well, that things are getting worse, and therefore they make decisions on the wrong basis. And therefore, that's why I'm saying alternative effects or fake facts or fake news are not good at all. We need pure evidence-based facts like these ones, which have been given today. And I think, therefore, on that we made them, I think it was made a statement before the economist had presented the papers. So I think I'll forgive you for that. For the alternative news, I think that is very important. So our take home, there are 3. The first one is that we need to increase production. But the problem with the manufacturing sector is that the production is increased by using foreign currency. I've never seen a sector that utilizes foreign currency like industry in Zimbabwe. This sector called manufacturing sector, if you have noticed, they only export 13% if you include other minerals which are manufactured. If you take pure manufactured products in this country, they are between 5 and 10% of exports. But the utilization of foreign currency is too much. It's too much. You have seen yourself that they are now, last year when there was a drought, they were utilizing 84% from the local market. Now there is no drought in 2017. They're using what? 64%. But output has gone up. What does it tell you? It means they're using foreign currency, they're using imports to produce. It's not me who says those things. These are I'm just saying what I saw. That they say that they're now using 64% from the local domestic market. They were using 84% this year, sorry, last year, 2016. But there was drought last year. So it means that this year, the companies in the industry are now using more foreign currency than before. So I want to challenge you, the CZI president, to further look at that matter to say, why is it that case? And therefore, we'll be happy to share with CZI the names of those corporates, those firms, to see whether the others are just inflating numbers or not lying to yourselves, because to us, we've got all the numbers for all those in the industry. So we'll be able to share with you to see whether the others were inflating figures for the sake of the survey results, or that they were taking the truth. Yeah, I think it's very critical. Because to be honest with you, I was speaking to Mr. Dr. Kanyakanya, that I'm concerned that how come we would expect the inverse, 64% last year, 84% this year. Because if you look at the national foods, your profits, all those ones, they use what? Domestic raw materials. So, to be honest with you, I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting 64% 2016, 84% this year. But alas, it's opposite. And therefore, we are, to me, to be honest with you, I'm concerned by that statistic. I'm not challenging it. I'm only saying, from a priori reasoning, which is a before you interrogate it, I was expecting the opposite. So that we need to take home and check is, and then also compare on the pricing of goods and services. Our appeal to business is not to use average cost pricing systems as opposed to use marginal pricing systems. We have seen in Zimbabwe that companies here you are using marginal pricing systems, which you say, I have gone to the parallel market to buy 5% of my utilization, my foreign currency, and therefore use the parallel pricing. Yet the 50% of the money you got it from the Reserve Bank or from banks, the official exchange rate, that we need to change. You need to change to make sure that the prices in Zimbabwe, they are reasonably priced. Some people, or some companies and some firms, they get 75% to 100% of their foreign from the Reserve Bank, but they still go choose marginal opportunity cost pricing system. I think that should desist. This is why you cannot be competitive. The Zimbabwean syndrome is that we just want to dump the price here, and then that's why you cannot compete. Yourself as a very important market, but can you compete yourselves? It's not because of anything else. It's just because of the human behavior, soft skills. Because Zimbabwe is more like a landlocked place where you go and get foreign currency, produce, sell domestically. If your pricing is wrong here, why do you think it's going to be right when you go to Zambia or to South Africa? I will give you an example. Wire that is used for fencing. From South Africa, the row is 847 rands. In Zimbabwe, the same row, 50 kgs, is 147 US dollars. So it's not from Zimbabwe. They also imported from South Africa to resell in Zimbabwe. It is that madness which I do believe, personally. And then someone will tell you, the boss, I bought the money from the parallel market. That's not true. If you buy there, the 20%. 20% of 847, if you divide it, that's only about 75 or so. US comparable. How then do you justify to double 75 to 150? No, it doesn't make sense at all. And it is that mentality which made us not even to be able to compete with other regions, because you go there with 150 as opposed to the $90. So the time begins at home. I always say about the man in the mirror. Let's look at ourselves and say, how do we change our pricing systems? It's not about what I talk about here, about being efficient. It's about being normal in pricing systems. So we need to increase exports. We need to increase production. We need to ensure that we also improve the business environment system in Zimbabwe. Investor confidence. You spoke about confidence here. I think we need to tackle confidence. As a country, as a government, as a central bank, we need to deal with the confidence issues. Confidence is a perception, and perception is everything. We need to work very hard on the confidence building blocks in this country. And they are all known. If we work on that, the rest, maybe even the pricing system becomes also better, because when people expect or have a wrong perception, or the alternative news, or alternative effects, they price in according to their own perception. And therefore, we need to work as a package to ensure that this economy moves, and it moves in the right direction. But otherwise, as I said, I just want to be discussing also. I want to listen more from yourselves when you contribute to this debate. But I thought I'd just share with you that we agree with the results that we've seen. It's a testimony that the industry is growing. We expect to grow further in this coming season. We expect you to utilize more from local production than to use from imports, because this economy is import dependent, which is very high. If you look at the industry in Zimbabwe, our import dependence is between 50 to 60%. With some companies in industry, 70%. That's dangerous. It means that you are dependent on foreign currency which are not earning. It's very dangerous. You are only earning 13%, but you dependent 70%. So even if you were to match Dr. Kanyakanya, what are you matching? You have no foreign currency yourself. Whom are you matching with? You want to match the gold producer, foreign currency, the tobacco producer, to match it yourself, to bring nothing. I think that's not a good. That's what matching. That's not called matching. And that's why we never took anything from the mafia sector. 100% is returning. You are retaining it yourselves. We won't take from mining. We only from 5 products, by the way. For ease of transparency and transparent purposes, we only take 50% or so from 5 products. Your platinum, your tobacco, your gold, your ferrochrome, and diamond. The rest, 100% in Zimbabwe, retention. Retention in Zimbabwe. So we never take anything from Manfrian sector. And what the best guys who are exporting there, you know them, your Paramount garments, your triggers, those are the biggest, those are the 2 biggest exporters in Zimbabwe industry. And those ones, so how do you make them? Even if they are also exporting, here this one, they also have a deficit of foreign currency. They also come to us to supplement their exports. So, the economist, CEO, you are still very far away from Canada, that is. Because if those ones, if you go and ask Jeremy, you tell that he still needs also foreign currency. Go and ask Martin Locke to traders, he still also needs a supplemental. But they are the biggest. Think about $80 million or $10 million per year. So is industry in Zimbabwe. So I know all this industry in Zimbabwe by heading, which is doing what? Those figures are correct, which I'm telling you. I know that they need supplemental from the Reserve Bank, from the companies who are exporting. Now, if we are now matching, we're matching with whom? I thought that by giving 100% retention, it means that it gives you motivation. So that you export to Mozambique, to South Africa, and we also provided you with the export incentive scheme, which we say that we're going to increase from 5%. And only so far, 10 companies have applied to ensure that it goes up above 5%. And they are exporting. And they've increased their employment. Take this opportunity, the industry, to increase on exports, increase on production. I want to thank you very much.
Like I said, we've combined. You've had the doctor with money from the Reserve Bank and the other one. Okay, I think I was lying. Anyway, you've heard from both of us. So in essence, what we want to do now is a fairly simple exercise. We are going to have that discussion. We'll pose questions, let it be interactive, and there is no wrong and right answer. You are free Zimbabweans. There's freedom of choice, freedom of speech before and after. So let's get on to it. You can criticize any one of us. I think that's fine. So what we'll do is that in the next 10-15 minutes, we'll answer 2 rounds of questions. When we are done, the president of CZI will then give us the way forward. And I'm sure you will be listening. He's also a discussant in his own right. Can we have those questions, please, coming through? They can be questions, they can be comments as well. You are free to criticize any one of us if we got it wrong.